Big typhoon, super typhoon news here in the Philippines. So let's look at some data and some pictures here in a bit. Hello and welcome to the Philippines. The big news here in the Philippines, unfortunately, continues to be Super Typhoon Pepito. And we've got it, this is windy.com. Let's jump back over to Pagasa, the agency here in the Philippines responsible for tracking storms that come into this red box here, which is the Philippine Area of Responsibility. There's an international name for this, Manyi, and once the crosses this red line, if you're flying in, you will not see the red line, so don't look for it. Anyway, the Philippines changes the name. A little bit confusing, but they change it to Pepito. Each storm they change to a different name. When it leaves out here, it goes back to the international name. But anyway, we've got Super Typhoon here affecting, it's going south. It's, I think, number 6 big storm, either severe tropical storm or typhoon here in the last month. And the last thing they need, and they've all hit, and basically they've clipped the northern end of Luzon, this northern island of Luzon, Manila down in here. Um, One of them was very broad, brought even way above average winds to Cebu and other islands as well, and a little bit of rain, but not the full force of the storm. Anyway, let's zoom in here a little bit. And I'll show you a few pictures here a little bit later that I found online. The eye of the storm, and it's heading northwest up. Looks like the track is right over close to Baguio City. Let's go down here to the Pepito cyclone track. And yeah, they've got it tracking perhaps right over Baguio City, which is about a mile high city. Considered the summer capital because it's much cooler up there. Much cooler up there. A lot of people go up there. So here's your legend, your schedule down here. Lowest storm from a low pressure system on up to through severe tropical storm, typhoon, super typhoon, and it is this super typhoon in this area here will perhaps drop back to typhoon status as it approaches the center of Luzon. This whole island here, Luzon, you got Manila, stretches all the way down into this area. Catanduanes up in Bicol region, up in these areas, have been hit very severely a couple of weeks ago. Many of the communities there underwater, still trying to recover. And you got the Philippine Sea out here, and what happens? You got the cold Pacific Ocean waters, and when you get to this warm water, these storms, it picks up a lot of energy very quickly. It can turn into a typhoon and super typhoon within 24 or 48 hours. And the water out here is like 80 degrees, give or take a few degrees. And there's a whole lot of energy that these storms pick up out of there. The other thing to be careful about is the storm surge. These big storms bring in a huge storm surge. So if you are in coastal areas where those storm surges are affect, uh, could be bad news for you. I think it was Bohol Island a number of years ago. Took a motorbike trip around, and a couple times I saw a sign saying, "This is a storm surge area. If there's a storm, tropical storm or typhoon, very likely we will get a storm surge here." Anyway, let's bounce back over to my favorite site, one of my favorite sites, windy.com, a free app for your phones. Windy.com have just a tremendous amount of information all over the world. And I pay, I think, 20 some dollars to be a premium member because they, when somebody offers up a lot of really great information, I like to support them. And yeah, in fact, I've got memberships available on my site where I take a deeper dive into risks in the Philippines, into real estate and the medical system, a number of other issues as well. I'm down here on. I can go. I can change a lot of parameters down here. That's blue. This is visible. Jump over to visible and infra. There kind of gives us the most, shows us the energy that's packed in there. And I've got it down here to 12 hours. You can do 6 hours, 1 hour. Number of things you can change down here and get additional information, and they just have a ton of information over here. If I hit the menu button here, they've got hurricane tracker all over the world, and hit hurricane tracker, and it shows the track that they have it projected down here. Manyi, or Pepito, the Filipino name, and they've got a number of different agencies that have tracks, each one of them just a little bit different. Sometimes they're quite a bit different, but as it gets closer, 140 mile per hour winds today at 2 p.m. It says as it hits land up here. As you know, if you're in the U.S., you've experienced hurricanes there. You know that when these systems hit land, they usually lose some of their strength. Anyway, it goes down to 89 miles per hour. That is a lot of wind. If you've ever been out in the wind, even 20 miles per hour. Here are a few pictures I pulled off the government site, Philippine News Agency, PNA, worth checking out sometimes for your news. And I could not find any information about crediting whoever took these photographs. So there's no information to share as far as where it is. Down in Cataduenas, northern Samar, possibly, but there was no information. Anyway, if you've been in a big storm anywhere in the world, you understand what can occur. The trees break, the power lines go down, the flooding, the damage to homes and infrastructure. Anyway, there's just a little bit, and I can change this down here. I can change it to the metric system also, but because most of my viewers are U.S., I will leave it miles per hour. Track, you've got Sarah up here in the Gulf of Mexico, hitting, I think, Mexico right now. And you've got one, where's this, out in the Indian Ocean, I believe. And Usagi, that's the one we had previously. But first, a quick look at another interesting site, weathernerds.org. They've got a number of different, this is, I think the one down here, 120 hours, these lower tracks, and this is, I think, 240. Anyway, I am down in the middle of the Philippines, going north to south, down in Cebu City, centrally located, and we are not really being affected in any way. Maybe a little bit of the cloud cover that we see off and on the last 2 days. Maybe just a little bit more breeze, but basically we're not too affected by especially the forces, the destructive forces. So that is a good thing. And the good news is most of the Philippines, most of the time, is not being affected by typhoon. Problem is the recovery in these areas. One person commented over on Samar, I think, that every time one of these typhoons hits, it sends us back to the medieval period, and we have to start rebuilding. And even over on, I know almost 3 years ago, Super Typhoon Odette. The big typhoons usually don't make it this far, as far as Cebu. They lose their strength in the outer eastern islands, Samar, Leyte, Bohol, Mindanao, and they very rarely that they hit Mindanao as well. But they came through here very strong, did a lot of damage. I can still look out my window, see some roofs that are damaged that have not been repaired. There are resorts on the coast that still have not been repaired. In case of Mole Bowl, I think they're not allowing some of them, the resorts, to rebuild because they were too close to the high tide line. so they're not being allowed to rebuild. And good and bad there. I've stayed at a couple of those resorts and it was a great experience. Anyway, stay safe out there. Safe travels. I know many of you are planning to travel the Philippines. November is on average throughout the many decades of record keeping. November is a very low storm and typhoon season, so this is very unusual to have this many storms in November. Um, and even doesn't have to be a typhoon. A severe tropical storm can dump just enormous amounts of water and do some major damage as it did here a few weeks ago. Anyway, safe travels to you all, and I'll see you in the next video.